Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to our next episode of Master the Product. Our topic for today is how is JLL reshaping property tech with AI? And to help us with that topic, we have Sharon Hunt. She's the VP of Product at JLL. She has 15 years of experience in pretty much building any kind of product you can think of, from B2B to B2C, real estate, HR, and fintech. Prior to JLL, Sharon held senior leadership positions at Intuit, Housecall Pro, and Clover's AI. As for me, my name is Mustafa Kapadia. I'm your host. I help product organizations figure out how to use AI to be more effective and efficient. You can learn about me and my services at echo-point.com. Sharon, welcome to the show. I'm so glad that we're finally doing this.
Yeah, it's great to see you. I'm
Same
excited.
here. I know you and I have been talking for quite some time. You had some great, I think we even reached out maybe way earlier this year, and you had some great news. And so we actually postponed it. So I'm glad that we're actually meeting now.
Yeah, my little one came into the world back in May, and yeah, she's now 6 months old, and it's insane how fast they grow. Yep.
That's quick, exactly. Congratulations, as always. These things are awesome. Enjoy the time, like I was telling you about before. Um, if it's okay with you, Sharon, why don't we just jump in, right? Let's kind of start with the big picture. I mean, property tech is a big market. There's a lot of different uh, there's a lot of different communities. There's a lot of different businesses. There's a lot of different industries within it. Um, Tell us more about where does JL fit in, and what kind of market you serve.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of like peeling back an onion. So I'll explain all the layers to you. JLL is a
Yeah.
200-year-old commercial real estate firm that has operational businesses across basically everything that you can think about when it comes to running prosperous
Yeah.
buildings. Property management, facilities management, leasing, brokering, sustainability services, all of these operational arms that you really need to make sure that a building is efficient and prosperous at the end of the
Yes.
day. And there's also the arm of the business called LaSalle, which is the second L in JLL.
Mm,
That is a giant global investor. So it's
yes.
actually, you know, not just operations, but owning many, many, many buildings across the globe as well. About 5, 6 years ago, JLL started investing in property technology companies through
Mm,
a venture fund called JLL Spark. And through that arm, it grew and grew, and they actually started to acquire companies that
yeah.
strategically aligned with their different operational arms.
Perfect.
Um, so I am the VP of product over the property management technology stack. So specifically, um, technology to serve the property management operational arm, and that primarily includes a business that JLL acquired called Building Engines.
Got
That
it.
is a big platform of capabilities that you can deploy in a building, primarily office buildings, industrial buildings, or retail buildings,
Yeah.
to allow property teams to run the building. And we have a suite of other products too. Some are homegrown within JLL that we use to give JLL a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Building Engines itself and the Prism platform, we are deploying globally within JLL, but we also sell to the external market as well.
Excellent. Yeah.
So that's the onion.
Yeah, that's great, and you're absolutely right. There's so many layers to it, and it's a very interesting too, because what I liked about the conversation we've had earlier is that not only number one is your biggest customer is also the owner,
Yes.
right? And of
Yep.
course, you have multiple other customers, and I'm sure that creates lots of different opportunities to innovate, and I'm sure this creates some friction too. Um, but before we can actually go into that, you know, things are changing so fast. Just within your sector and within your slice itself, things are changing. The market is, AI is bringing in new things. AI is changing the way we actually interact with technology. What has been the impact, or what has been the biggest change that you've seen in the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about just the sheer magnitude of data that is
Yeah.
generated by buildings globally, I did a little like backwards or back at the napkin math, and something like 700 petabytes of data
Ah,
is generated
Yeah.
daily by a petabyte is 1,000 terabytes. Right? So this is like
Yeah.
45 libraries of Congress worth of data generated every single
Amazing.
day by buildings. But the technology that runs buildings is so fragmented. If you think about all the pieces that go into a building, you've
Hmm.
got maybe IoT sensors that are detecting leaks or monitoring the HVAC equipment. You've got
Right.
security cameras and access control systems. You've got the software applications that teams are using on the ground floor. You've got sustainability products that are being deployed. All of these things are generating data, but right now, still today, it's very fragmented in the way that it's been stored. Oftentimes, even on-prem systems, a lot of these buildings are still using isolated clouds
Right.
and are not yet using things like AWS or bigger cloud systems. Not uncommon to have software solutions independently deployed on-prem,
Hmm.
and there's not still a in, uh, industry-wide ontology of defining even the most fundamental data objects in the sector, like the definition of a building, for example, as a data
Yeah.
object. It's different across every application that you're going to come across.
Yes.
So even if you did have all this data stored in one massive data lake, for example, trying to parse it in historical ways
Yeah.
with normalization across different definitions of the same central thing is very, very difficult. It's even a challenge still at JLL. How do we just know that this property over here is the same as this one over here?
Yeah.
I think with AI, what is really exciting to me is it has this sort of baked in normalization capability. And it's
100%.
able, yeah, to understand that this property is this property. It doesn't necessarily tell you how, and it might not always be exactly correct,
No,
but it
but
certainly
it is
can get
directionally
you
correct and gives you pretty.
directionally correct. Yes.
Yeah.
And so you've got this possibility now where if you can at least solve for access to the data, which is
Yeah.
still, a big challenge, but if you can at least solve for that, then you can deploy AI to make sense of it in a way that has just never been possible before.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most exciting change that AI is driving in the market. And
I agree with
JLL
you.
is at the forefront of that. Yep.
I agree with you. I think AI does, especially when you have such large data, it really helps you make sense of it, right? Because you don't have to spend a lot of time, quote unquote, organizing things or normalizing things like you were talking about before, right? You can just point it to the data and hope, and it kind of finds things, or can extract things for you. Um, I wanted to dig down on how JLL is reacting to this, and you were just getting into that as well. So, given given this fragmented infrastructure, given all this data, given the fact is that you have so many different variabilities from like IoT that you talked about to some things on a mobile phone in which a property manager is managing the place on the ground. Um, how are you reacting to it? What are your or how are you leading that change more importantly? What kind of products are you thinking about building, or how are you even thinking about your product strategy?
Yeah, yeah. It's a great question. Let me break it down maybe into two parts. I think there's an infrastructure piece that's very important, and then the way that we think about the strategy of the products themselves that leverage that infrastructure.
Yeah.
Um, Within JLL, which it has right now, besides my portfolio, many hundreds of applications that are deployed across the business, most of which actually are dedicated applications that serve just JLL. There are other
Okay.
applications, though, like the ones in my portfolio that serve JLL and external clients. And so there's a
Yes.
lot of challenges just around how do you protect data, make sure that when
Hmm.
we're serving our client base, we are doing it with integrity and we're making sure that our
Yes.
clients' data is not used to help JLL in any way, right? We have to keep an iron curtain
You have to
between
keep it
those
separate.
things.
Yes.
Absolutely. That being said, when we are dealing with JLL data, we have now built an enterprise data platform. It's a giant data lake, basically, what all
Perfect.
applications are now pointing into. So it's starting to solve for this fundamental problem of uh, uniform
Yes.
centralization of data. Um, and then JLL is also putting a lot of resources into building centralized AI capabilities. It's under
Yes.
suite called the JLL Falcon, actually.
Hmm.
which is basically leveraging, third-party AI tools that are on the market, Claude, Gemini,
Perfect. Yes.
ChatGPT, OpenAI, exploring different models for different use cases, but also training it on a corpus of JLL proprietary data that's very CRE centric. So we'll answer questions with the CRE
Yeah.
lens, with more knowledge than
Perfect.
you would, with more expertise than you would get if you just use those inputs directly. So those are some
Good.
sort of centralized capabilities that we're able to leverage in our products.
Yes.
And when I think about my product line, I'll talk about Prism because that's the
Yeah.
biggest fish in my overall
Yeah.
suite, and that is our platform that property management teams use to run buildings. And today, as I mentioned before, there's all these fragmentation of systems that are in
Yes.
buildings, and PropTech is still a fairly nascent industry. And what's happened is that if you look across different buildings or different investors, the stack that folks have adopted is kind of messy. And there's a
Hmm.
lot of different tools that are being used in buildings, and teams kind of get tool fatigue. You've got to log into this
Right.
system to get this insight, or this system to get this insight. So primary pillar of our strategy is to build the broadest solution on the market. We want to be able to
Got it.
serve either through integrations or through native capability as many of
Yes.
those operational pieces of the puzzle as possible, so you have it all in one place.
Perfect.
And then if you also look at what's happening in the industry, there's a lot of turnover right now.
Hmm.
There's a labor shortage.
Yes.
Um, that's a struggle in the market more broadly, and so you really can't saddle people with a product that's very, very difficult to learn.
Yes.
There's especially when there's people are already strapped for time, you got to make it
Yeah.
really easy. And so our strategy is also to really invest in usability and making sure that our systems are that Prism is just really easy to adopt.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Now, if you do those two things well, you've got a breadth of activity, and then you've got a depth of activity through deep usage because it's easy to use. Then the outcome of that is a rich treasure trove of data that you've generated that you can
Yes.
then use to unleash insights about the building, about what's going well, what's going wrong. And this is where, historically we've applied standard reporting capabilities, but with
Hmm.
AI now as a new tool in the toolbox, we can really start to transform the way that our customers can leverage that information to
Yeah.
understand where they have operational opportunities in their
I
buildings.
love that.
Um,
I actually want to ask about all of those three things. So I know you talked about infrastructure. I know that you talked about connecting all of these different apps or these products together, so to tie it in. Then, of course, usability. Um, can you provide? I know you and I have talked about it, but can you provide some more examples about and even the usability piece? How is AI helping you make your products more usable, or how is AI helping you tie things together of different products into some kind of a seamless experience for your users?
yeah, it's a great question. Maybe these are really exploratory spaces. So
Yeah,
I'll talk about a couple of initiatives and feature plans that we have for next year
perfect.
to answer the
Yeah.
question. One initiative that we have going on right now is actually a full front end rewrite of
Oh,
Prism. Prism was basically a replatformed product. It is
okay.
we took the building engines software program, which we refer to as Classic internally, and we rewrote it and then some on a newer,
Mm,
more modern technology stack. Um, but we did that very quickly, and in so doing that, there was never investment into a design system along the way.
got it.
And so
Yeah,
you look at every drop down on the screen, and it's all individually coded, and there's these little small or sometimes fairly big
yeah,
inconsistencies in the experience that causes micro friction all over the
yes,
place.
100%. And
Um,
for users to lose trust in the system, right? So,
that can happen too, right? Yeah, yep. So we've embarked now on a full front end rewrite of the product, starting with the portal that faces our tenants because it's not
yeah,
as heavily used, so it's a good testing ground. And the team that is working on that has been using AI to expedite that whole process.
perfect.
We've adopted some design, an internal design system that's really just a series of tokens and some lightweight
Yeah.
styles, but not really deep component definitions. And now we're using AI to generate those components
Perfect.
to leverage those components in the rewrite. So it's a
Yes.
perfect application, I think, for AI because it is trained on what is common, and you
Yes.
actually want, when it comes to the micro interactions, you don't want things to be unique and different. You want to just follow the mold because that's what people are
Yes.
used to,
You
and they
want
don't
to take
really learn.
whatever people are used to and just give it to them. It just makes it easy. I agree. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So that's one big way that AI is helping to drive usability. It's through this rewrite, leveraging it to create components and then to actually code
Yeah.
those components
Are
to
you using AI to actually help you
free.
write the code, or are you using AI to actually just help you with a design piece, or both?
Both,
Okay.
both.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, the designers will use it to get ideas. And then
Yeah.
if they like it, they'll keep it or they'll tweak it. But it's kind of, it gets you from that 0 to 80.
Yes.
And then we've got
100%.
these unique use cases that you're not going to find in like material UI. We have to have flags on a drop down list or
Yes.
specific grouping or metadata, and you know, um, and you can't just pull that out of an existing component library. There's definitely some
No.
design thinking there, but the AI can suggest some ideas, and a good
100%.
designer could
Yeah.
take that, yeah, and
Yeah.
perfect it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I agree with you. I 100% agree that, um, some people don't like the fact that it's pulling from a common database for design elements, but I personally think that's an asset.
I do too.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're actually trying to build things fast. It's better to use reuse components that we know work as opposed to try to build a whole design system that is completely unique. And that just adds more cost and time ultimately.
And yeah, and then you might introduce just burden, a cognitive burden on a
Yeah,
customer that's unnecessary at the end of the
yeah,
day.
exactly. And burden on the customer and almost technical debt to the team because if you ever want to change things, right, it becomes
Hmm.
harder and harder to do
Exactly.
it. 'Cause then that small little component that you design has to propagate through everything that you do. So it's much easier to just build something that everybody knows is standardized, right? Now,
Yeah. So that's
um,
one track.
yes,
And then we're building AI features, most of which at this point have not yet been released to market. We've got them in R&D right now that are specifically designed to I call it making the work less work.
ah,
So
perfect,
things like, a vendor uploads an invoice and we extract the data from that invoice instead of forcing them
got
to
it.
type it all in, or a certificate of insurance, same thing. Or if you want to generate an inspection schedule for a
Yes,
piece of equipment, you can do that if you already have, some data to import or with a prompt, because these things are actually really good at getting you to get to that 80% efficacy. So those are the
yes,
things that we're thinking about baking into workflows. How do you use AI to get a customer from 0 to 100%, or at least 0 to 80, where they're not having to
as
start from
close as you
scratch all
can
the
get.
time?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I actually like that strategy too because if you can make the work less, make your users work less, um, that itself is a huge benefit, right? Um,
Yep.
yes, that may not be, that's a mix of a whole bunch of different things, right? That's a mix of whole product design. That's a UX piece. There's a UI piece. There's a whole bunch of things that go into it to make their life easy. Um, as you're building this, I mean, listen, building products is hard, as you know, but then you introduce building products that have AI embedded in it, and given the challenges with using it with AI, um, what has been your experience so far about building these products?
The one that we've taken, well, the main market release that we've had so far, which has gotten really great response, and but still very nascent in its overall roadmap plans. We call it Prism AI. And right now,
Okay,
what it allows for you to do is to take documents that are already inside of the platform and run analyses against them. And it produces
perfect.
typically really beautiful data visualizations. So you
Yes,
can compare two tenant leases in a building and see what's the difference.
yeah,
What is the price per square foot? What is the tenant credits potentially, or the
Yes.
additional benefits for one versus the other to prepare yourself for potential negotiations when a tenant lease comes up. You can take a list of really non-enumerated responses from a tenant satisfaction
Mm,
survey, and actually call and get insights from that kind of unstructured data in a way that's easy to represent, and gives you where the focus should be when it comes to what you might want to be thinking about improving in your building, that kind of thing. And there's been really great responses to it so far. I think what we've
nice.
learned is that um, you know there's excitement about this, but there's still a lot of education that we have to be
Mm,
prepared to bring customers along the journey on, because not everyone is comfortable using these tools. Not everyone kind of understands what a
no.
good prompt is or a bad prompt, or
Yes.
even the possibilities of what you might be able to do with a capability, because that's really what it is. It's a capability. It's not a feature. And when you have a capability, the whole intent is to allow it to be flexible and allow people to kind of
Yes.
put their own needs on it.
Yeah.
But sometimes
I
our
actually
clients don't know how to
100%.
articulate those needs. Yeah.
100%. You know what? It's such a great insight because you're absolutely right. You can build this really powerful capability into your product. And if your users don't know how to use it or struggle to use it, they're not going to get the full value, right? It reminds me, I was talking to somebody else, and they were actually building at that moment in time the ability for lawyers to be able to pull out contracts through an
Yep.
AI, through somewhat like a chatbot system, right? Um, and they had the same challenge. They're like, listen, we built all of these great things in which you can actually bring all these contracts out there. Lawyers can take a look at it, they can revise it, they can see if it's up to speed and with certain specs and regulations. And then when we launched it, we realized that the lawyers didn't know how to use
Yep.
AI, and so we had to go through this whole new process. Um, so that, I guess, that gives me to the next question: is that if that's where that's where your users are, or that's what they're struggling with, what does that mean for you next in your product, or how are you overcoming those challenges?
Yeah, it means, I think, a few different things. One is that the question library that we're building is actually really important. More important than we thought. We built it initially actually as an MVP, because
Yeah.
and with some of the tools that we shipped actually internally to
Yes.
JLL, we had a very nascent version of an AI product that we shipped last year that has now become more mature. But instead of allowing customers to just free form ask questions, we had a controlled list of questions, and
Yes.
we knew how to
Helps big time.
deploy
Yeah.
that, yeah, against the different APIs and how to aggregate the results.
Yeah.
That was done again as a way to get to market faster. But what we realized that those libraries are actually really important because it gives people a starting point so
Yeah.
that they
It gives
don't
them
have
ideas
to.
of how to get started,
Exactly.
and
Mhm.
then they can always branch out, right? Um,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
very daunting to a user to have just a little chatbot because they don't know how what to do or how to react to. Um,
Yep. And
I think
and
that's
something
great. And
else.
so, are you building out more libraries, or how? What else are you thinking about doing to help it make it easier for users to use this capability?
Yeah, the extending the list of library questions is a big one.
Yeah.
However, there is one area that I think people are really comfortable asking questions and don't have to consider too much about what it is they want to ask, and that's in help. If you're
Yeah.
having trouble with the product, you can compose a question pretty easily that articulates what your struggle is, because you're feeling it
Yes.
right now. you know.
Yes.
And what we've also realized, we haven't deployed this yet in Prism, but we've done some experimentation internally. But these AI models are actually really great at interpreting code, and basically answering questions like a supercharged support
Yeah.
person. So you can ask someone, what does this permission do? Or, how do I complete this task? And train an AI to answer those kinds of questions like a
Yeah.
support person would. And it will, and if you just gave it the repositories of the code base that it's being asked about and nothing else, no existing support articles, no human driven content
Yeah.
beyond just the code, it actually can come up with very thorough and explicit answers to those questions. And that's where I think, you can almost, um, I have a theory at least. This is just a theory at this point. But if you can get people comfortable with asking questions to an AI that are support based in nature, because that's people are already used to doing that,
Yeah,
it might translate to them being more comfortable asking other types of questions about their
100%.
operations.
I agree. I agree. And I like the idea about having it talk directly to code. And by the way, that from what you're saying is that doesn't just help the users, but that can help your internal team as well,
That's
right?
the main
Right?
use case right now,
Right?
is we're using it internally to
Yes.
democratize product knowledge. Yeah,
Yes. And it's such a it and especially both on the product and engineering side. If you have somebody who's new to the company or new to the engineering team, they can use that to actually help get themselves up to speed. Or if you're in a product or if you're a product manager, you can use and figure out if your tech stack is going to even support what you're thinking about building, right? And those
absolutely.
feasibility studies used to take forever.
Yeah.
And now you can actually just kind of point and click, or you can ask and point, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, which kind of brings me to the next question, and I know we're almost out of time, so I'll keep it the last one. Is how so I understand the challenges that your users are facing with this new product and new capabilities. What about internally? How are you and your team adapting to just either using AI or leveraging AI or coding with AI or building with AI? What has been the experience there?
Yeah, we're still very, very early on in the journey. But I am very proud of my team for rolling up their sleeves and just being curious. Um, some folks are more comfortable than others. Right now, my team is all deployed on Cursor, which
Yeah,
is it's outside of the comfort zone for
yeah,
most PMs
100%.
and designers, right? It's an IDE, and
Yeah,
so running command lines, commands from the terminal, for example, or just understanding how to even set it up or interact with
yeah,
it. It's not like using Lovable or Replit or these kind of
no,
tools that are built for folks like PMs. But these Cursor is the tool that we right now have access to internally, this password security protocols. But we're seeing some folks, I think, take to it faster than others,
yes,
and they're kind of leading the charge. And in the um, I think the right model that I'm seeing be somewhat effective, and again, we're really new, but when those folks that are more comfortable with it are adopting it, then showing others what they've been able to do,
yes,
then I think that evangelism from your peers
yeah,
can be really impactful. And just having, coaching sessions internally, like, how did you do this
yes,
and how did you do that? And,
yeah,
sharing that knowledge. But when you really see how much faster you can get through a task,
oh yeah,
it's very compelling, right? You can spin up
yeah,
a
oh
prototype really
yes,
fast.
yeah,
You can, have it look at your requirement document for potential quality gaps that you hadn't considered before, use cases that you need to be, proactively designing for, or
yes,
baking into your automation plan. There's so many possibilities here that we've only started to scratch the surface. Um, but I think the big challenge is that it's just the tools right now that we're using are developer tools, and my team is not obviously aren't developers, and so there's
yes.
just a
Are they
uh,
using it predominantly to build and mock up prototypes, or what are they using it for?
the design team is.
Okay,
Um, I've actually been doing that a little bit myself.
perfect.
I was working with my head of sales this week to spin up a few futuristic
Yeah,
concepts around what property management technology might
yeah,
look like in 5 years with AI, which was fun. And normally I'd have to pull a designer into that, and take
yes,
a week away from them to do a concept car. Um, but they're also doing things like helping expedite help article creation, like I said,
no,
PRD
interesting.
documentation,
Yeah,
bug triage. Is this really a bug, or is this
yes,
functioning as designed? Yeah, generating stories out of a PRD in Confluence using the Atlassian MCP, for example.
nice.
And even it's actually interesting. I think I heard you talk about this with a gentleman you interviewed around how AI is transforming design, but he can even look at a concept and give you some early usability feedback. It's
Yes,
not gonna, it
100%.
doesn't replace, yeah, like real user testing, but it can
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
catch the things that are kind of obvious. And so you can
Yeah,
refine it to a point that allows for you to get the most out of your usability sessions, by
yes,
putting it through an AI check first.
yeah.
So those are
I
some
think
of the ways that
Cursor
we're,
is,
yeah.
I think Cursor is fantastic. If you can get over, especially as a product manager, if you can get over the first hump of just working with IDs and installing IDs and so on and so forth, it can be a very
Mhm.
powerful tool, right? And I agree with you. I think is a Cursor or Lovable or Bold or even just plain vanilla Chat GPT, there's so much that a PM can do now and so much faster,
Yeah.
and so much in depth that it makes, for me, number one, it makes your job much easier and much more fun. But then, like you said, the example about um, having a synthetic user or a digital twin actually comment on what you're building, or you can spar with them to figure out, um, as a thinking buddy is fantastic, right?
Mhm.
We've had clients in which we've built uh, synthetic personas for the users, for the stakeholders, and really is like it's like a first level glance at, okay, I'm thinking of building this. What do you guys think, right? What do you
Yep.
like? What do you not like? And just getting that feedback is fantastic,
Yep. As
right?
a first round. Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
first
Yep.
round. And what it means is
Hmm.
that when you go and actually talk to users, which you have to, so synthetic users don't replace users, um, that you are much more focused on things that matter, right? As opposed to starting off from scratch with users. So it just makes that interaction much more productive. Because you've been in user testing and user interviews before. Like most of the time, we're just scratching the surface with what we can ask.
Yeah,
Um,
unless your product's already really refined,
yeah,
or at least fairly refined.
yeah,
If it is, then you're getting those additional nuggets because you're
yes,
seeing, yeah, the obvious things that people are struggling with. If you take those away
yeah.
and you resolve them, then you get the deeper insights.
Yes. So you do that first level thing, and from an example earlier, right? If you just remove friction from the way that you use product, if AI can help you identify those areas of friction so that you can actually have second order or high level order of conversations with your users, stakeholders, that itself is gold, right?
Yep. Mhm.
Um, I think this is great. So, sorry, I know I asked you that was last question, but let me ask you one more question because just
Happy to.
this is so good. Um, Tell me where you think this is going, right? So not just where JL is evolving to, but if you had to put a crystal ball, like where is PropTech evolving to in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think it becomes a much more deeply integrated space, because you can now accelerate quote unquote integrations through
Yeah,
AI without having to rely again on true integrations, right? As long as the data is in one place, you can actually drive insights out of that data without having to have one product speak to another product's endpoints and
yeah,
transfer in a very structured way information from one to another. So when you're looking at a market that's so fragmented, um, in the past, it's still going to be a giant challenge. Don't get me wrong,
yeah,
but it feels like an unending road to get all of that information connected to each other, so that you can start to
yeah,
really build truly smart buildings that are, you know, um, optimized for efficiency in a way that they haven't been before, because they're controlling lights and HVAC systems based on occupancy trends and who's in the building and the weather
right,
conditions, and you know uh, outputting reports automatically that are completely aligned with the local municipalities ESG reporting compliance regulations. And all of these things require data from multitude of different places
mm,
to be working together seamlessly. And that's always been the challenge, is you've got these kind of pockets of data that are all over the place that do a
yeah,
narrow job, but not an integrated solution that can really work together to transform how
yeah,
buildings operate. And that's where I think we're headed. I don't think that we'll be there in 5 years. This is the oldest industry, I think out there is buildings, right? We've been
yeah,
building shelter since we existed. But I think that we'll make much faster strides towards that than we ever would have in a world where we were
yeah,
relegated to uh, historical ontological data structures needing to be
I agree.
uniform and classic
Yeah,
integrations. Mhm.
I agree. I think things are, well, number one, it's getting easier and easier to build products, which is always good, right? And then you take something like where you guys are, in which you have so many disparate systems, and hopefully when you sprinkle in AI on top of it, it just makes things gel faster. Or even the old idea of gelling things faster may not even matter because AI can crawl through different levels of data sets
Exactly.
without you
Mhm.
actually connecting them, right? And so just the idea about bringing all of this together and creating that seamless user experience that you're talking about is fantastic,
Mm.
right? Sharon, if it's okay with you, I would love to have you back, and maybe you can tell us how things have changed.
I would love to. Yeah.
Yeah,
6 months, a year from now, it's going to be a lot
yeah,
different. Yeah.
yeah.
As you
I
know.
mean, where Prism is and how it's changed, and how you've gone, how the user library is going on, how the user experience is going on, how you're integrating data. I think that would be a great story. So,
Love to. Thanks for
um,
having me today.
thank you for having me. This is great. I'm glad we finally connected. I know it took us some time to get here, but I'm so glad we did.
Me too. Have a good day, everybody.